The disgraced former president has responded to the new indictment filed against him in the election subversion case, describing it as an effort to resurrect a dead witch hunt and accusing the special counsel Jack Smith of election interference. Ironic, considering that the entire reason for this indictment is because Donald Trump interfered with the election. Yes, Donald Trump unleashed a torrent of anger, vitriol, abuse about the superseding indictment, which keeps the same criminal charges against him that were filed last summer, but cleverly removes allegations related to the Justice Department to circumnavigate the immunity given to him by the MAGA Republican Supreme Court. Yes, this indictment came after the SCOTUS decision in July that ruled that Trump and other presidents have immunity for official acts. Well, Trump described the move as a travesty and sought to pin the blame on his rival for the White House, Vice President Kamala Harris. Of course, she has nothing to do with it. The Justice Department is separate, albeit was not separate when Donald Trump was running it, because the corrupt nature of his administration meant that his Attorney General was basically his private legal team. The superseding indictment, which was presented to a new grand jury that had not previously heard evidence in this case, reflects the government's efforts to respect and implement the Supreme Court's holdings and remand instructions in Trump versus the United States. The new document, for example, removes mention of Jeffrey Clark, the former Justice Department official who was raided in the middle of the night and famously had to stand outside his own home in his underpants whilst his property was searched by the FBI. He aided Trump's effort to try to overturn the election. Jeffrey Clark was the only government official who was listed as an unnamed co-conspirator in the official indictment. I just want to remind you that Trump versus the United States is a point at which you should probably say, okay, that guy who is the enemy of the state should not be running for president. And yet, for some crazy reason in this lawless country, it seems perfectly possible to bring about a coup against your own country, to be investigated for it, and to be impeached for it, and to still be able to run for president. You can't get a security clearance, but you can run for president. It just seems that so many exceptions are made for rich white men. And I'm sure the same would not be offered to Kamala Harris if she was in the same position. She isn't, however, because she represents the law of the land as a former prosecutor, a district attorney, and now the vice president of the United States. Donald Trump said on Truth Social that it should be dismissed immediately and that no presidential candidate or candidate for any office has ever had to put up with all this lawfare and weaponization directly out of the office of a political opponent. Well, let us remind the disgraced former president that no presidential candidate or candidate for office, or indeed former president, has ever committed so many crimes against his own country. Trump continued, the whole case should be thrown out and dismissed on presidential immunity grounds, as already ruled unequivocally by the U.S. Supreme Court. He wrote in a series of posts representing the July U.S. Supreme Court decision that former presidents are entitled to some degree of immunity from criminal prosecution. That, of course, is an insane decision, and is again courtesy of Donald Trump packing the court with these far-right Christian nationalists who owe him a debt of gratitude. In another post he wrote, "What they are doing now is the single greatest sabotage of our democracy in history." The irony of him claiming sabotage when he tried to overturn the election is rich, coming from somebody who has never abided by the law ever since he was able to walk on his own hind legs. And I would suggest that anything now that is posted or comes out the mouth of Donald Trump is taken with a pinch of salt. He's proven himself as a liar and somebody not to be trusted. So, on a personal note, I'd just like to say thank you to Jack Smith for being diligent and for standing by the indictment and seeking a prosecution despite this ridiculous immunity that Donald Trump claims is his get-out-of-jail card. He will certainly not be getting out of jail, and as Kamala Harris is polling 3, 4, 5 points ahead of Donald Trump on national polls, that suggests to me that Donald Trump will be entirely available to be prosecuted, to be found guilty, and to be incarcerated for his crimes against the United States. I'm Anthony Davis. You can catch me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.